Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lana and I am back with TBR finds for October. I just forgot what month we're in. Throughout the month of October, I visited bookstores, I was on Instagram, on YouTube, and I found a bunch of books that sounded interesting to me and I added them to my want to read shelf on Goodreads. And today I will tell you what those books are. And I will start with one that I'm not sure qualifies. It is the Language Lover's Puzzle Book, Lexical Perplexities and Cracking Conundrums from Across the Globe. The reason why I'm not sure if I should add this or not is that I guess it's non-fiction, but I'm not sure if it has any like actual text or is it just puzzles. The reviews say this book is composed of 100 language puzzles based on more than 24 far-flung as well as familiar languages, interspersed with preamble to give more background around how the different language features came about and how they work. Oh my god, that's amazing. While I enjoyed solving some of the puzzles, be warned that many of them, perhaps the majority, are fiendishly hard, and with just a casual interest in languages, you should expect to spend many hours working through them all. Featuring a huge variety of ancient, modern, and even invented languages, this collection of problems will introduce you to unusual alphabets and scripts, curious vocabularies and phonologies, and global variations in simple behaviors like counting, telling the time, and naming children. Oh, this is so fascinating. This is like perfect for someone like me. I love languages and learning more about languages, and I love puzzles, so this sounds amazing. Next is After Dark by Haruki Murakami. I saw this in a reel on Instagram. It was like a beautiful reel all about short books that take place in a single night that you can read on a train ride during the night. And Haruki Murakami was on that list. I've not heard of this book. I've only read one book by Haruki Murakami, which was Norwegian Wood, which I did not like at all, but I know that his strength is magical realism and Norwegian Wood is not that. Even though I didn't like Norwegian Wood, I always felt like I should read something else by him that's more of like the genre that he's known for. One of the things that stops me from doing that is the amount of pages in each of those books. They're very big, but this one, it's 191 pages, so it's very short, but it also has magical realism. 19-year-old Mari is waiting out the night in an anonymous Denny's when she meets a young man who insists he knows her older sister, thus setting her on an odyssey through the sleeping city. In the space of a single night, the lives of a diverse cast of Tokyo residents, models, prostitutes, mobsters, and musicians collide in a world suspended between fantasy and reality. Utterly enchanting and infused with surrealism, After Dark is a thrilling account of the magical hour separating midnight from dawn. Does it worry me a little that there are mobsters in this story? Yes, because that's not something I like reading about, but I think I should give it a go. Let me know if you read this one and should I read this? Next is Speak, Find Your Voice, Trust Your Gut, and Get From Where You Are to Where You Want to Be by Tunde Oyenyen, and this is obviously like a non-fiction memoir. Do I know her? No, but I saw someone on Instagram recommending this book and talking about how it's so motivational and inspirational and how much they enjoyed the writing and the stories. And I personally really like reading books like this. Tunde Oyenyen is a massively popular Peloton instructor, fitness star, and founder of Speak. And this is an inspiring book that shows how she transformed grief, setbacks, and flaws into growth, self-confidence, and triumph. So why did I add this to my want to read? First of all, the title. Like, all of these topics are those that I am like actively working with in my job with my clients. Reading stories like this that talk about, you know, finding your voice and learning to trust yourself and all of those things really help give me more language and context, ways to talk about these things that can help me in my job and help my clients with. Second of all, the fact that she is a fitness instructor means that there will be discussions on health and how fitness benefits our mental health and our overall health. I love reading about health and I love reading about like active people because it makes me want to be one as well. Don't have much else to say about this book, but it's one that I am looking forward to reading one day. Next is When We Were Friends by Holly Bourne. This is contemporary fiction, mental health, adult. Holly Bourne is the author of The Places I've Cried in Public, which I personally have not read, but I've heard amazing things from other people about this book. I'm pretty sure that one is a YA, and this one is adult. From the day they first meet as teenagers, Fern and Jessica are best friends. Despite their differences, they are there for each other throughout everything, navigating the difficulties of growing up and fitting in. That is until Jessica crosses a line that Fern can't forgive. But now, more than 10 years later, Jessica has unexpectedly reappeared in Fern's life. A lot has changed for them both. But can their relationship be different now that they are older? Is it possible for either of them to rewrite the roles they've been cast in? Or will their shared history ultimately be doomed to repeat itself again? Generally, if you were to pitch me a book that is about female friendship, literary fiction, that would not interest me too much, but something about this one really intrigues me, and I really like that on the cover it says not all friendships are forever. I dealt with a lot of friendship drama in my life, some that I'm still, like years later, I still think about, and I always felt like societally we don't really talk about friendships and how toxic they can be, what a healthy friendship looks like, all the boundaries, the traumas that it creates. We do talk about all of those things about romantic relationships, but for some reason the conversations around friendship are not as often discussed, and I don't know what exactly am I expecting from this book. Am I expecting to see, I don't know, some of the things I've lived through in this story? Am I expecting to get answers about, like, I don't know, but something in me saw this book and was like, yes. Next is The Broken Girls by Simone St. James, and the genres are mystery thriller, historical fiction, horror, paranormal. So this has two timelines. One is in 1950 and the other in 2014. In 1950, there's a place for the girls whom no one wants, the troublemakers, the illegitimate, the too small for their own good. It's called Idlewild Hall. And in the small town where it's located, there are rumors that the boarding school is haunted. Four roommates bond over their whispered fears, their budding friendship blossoming until one of them mysteriously disappears. And then in 2014, as much as she tried, journalist Fiona Sheridan cannot stop revisiting the events surrounding her older sister's death. 20 years ago, her body was found lying in the overgrown fields near the ruins of Idlewild Hall. When Fiona discovers that Idlewild Hall is being restored by an anonymous benefactor, she decides to write a story about it. But a shocking discovery during the renovations will link the loss of her sister to secrets that were meant to stay hidden in the past, and a voice that won't be silenced. I think this book was one of the book of the month picks, or am I wrong? Either way, it has over 80,000 ratings. It's rated 4.7, which is pretty high for Goodreads. If you've been here before, I don't have to tell you why this book is on my want to read. You know, it's a mystery thriller. There are possible ghosts. There's a murder. It's all I want. Next is a book I saw on Instagram. I saw this post and my heart skipped a beat. I got so excited. It's called Mummified, the stories behind Egyptian mummies in museums. Genres: history, nonfiction, Egypt, Egyptology, archaeology. It says, Mummified explores curious, unsettling, and controversial cases of mummies held in French and British museums. From powdered mummies eaten as medicine to mummies enrolled in public, dissected for race studies and DNA tested in modern laboratories, there is a lot more to these ancient remains than first meets the eye. Mummified investigates matters of life and death, of collecting and viewing, and of interactions, sometimes violent and sometimes emotional, that question the essence of what makes us human. I love that it's not just about, you know, the history of Egypt, how people were mummified and why were they mummified, all of those things, but I love that it's about how the rest of our history treated mummies. And I'm sure there will be conversations about colonialism and morality surrounding science and how we use ancient artifacts that we find from history. It's just like, and like learning about museums and how they work. Like, it's just all around, this book sounds absolutely amazing. Next is another nonfiction, and it's The Status Game on Social Positions and How We Use It by Will Storr. I feel like the title says it all, but let me read a little bit of it for you. For centuries, philosophers and scholars have described human behavior in terms of sex, power, and money. In The Status Game, best-selling author Will Storr radically turns this thinking on its head by arguing that it is our irrepressible craving for status that ultimately defines who we are. It's an unconscious obsession that drives the best and worst of us, our innovation, arts, and civilization, as well as our murders, wars, and genocides. But why is status such an all-consuming prize? What happens if it's taken away from us? And how can our unquenchable thirst for it explain cults, moral panics, conspiracy theories, the rise of social media, and the culture wars of today? Some of this reminds me of the book Theater of Envy, which is like an anthropological analysis of characters and behaviors of characters from Shakespeare plays. And it's very interesting, him going into, let's look at all of these motivations and all of these behaviors of characters and see them through the lens of envy. And he sort of goes deep into anthropology and how communities behave in certain situations. Like, it's very fascinating, and this type of book sounds similar, only maybe more readable and with no Shakespeare. Either way, it's one that sounds very interesting to me. And last book I added yesterday, which was October 31st, so it counts as my October find. I watched Charlotte's video where she recommends nonfiction books, and this book really stood out to me. It's called Past Mistakes: How We Misinterpret History and Why It Matters by David Mountain. It came out in 2021. It's history, nonfiction, historical, and as with many other nonfiction books, it's exactly what it says on the cover. The stories we tell about our past affect how we see ourselves today. Just one wrong turn in our understanding of history can infect whole areas of thought, as well as how we look at society and relate to others in the 21st century. Exploring some of the biggest myths, mysteries, and misconceptions about the past, David Mountain reveals how ongoing revolutions in history and archaeology are finally shedding light on the truth. This is one that I think would be very both interesting to read, but also very frustrating. I wonder if this book will also have like a section on how it's very hard to change people's minds if their whole life they've been told something else. Anyway, these are all the books that I added to my want to read on Goodreads. Let me know if you read any of these, if you think I made the right choice by adding them to my Goodreads. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye!